multi-agency inspection as well. And as part of that preparation, a multi-agency audit was undertaken in December last year. All actions were returned to all the teams, noting good improvement work, and any kind of improvement work that requires to be undertaken by the team was noted and has been actioned as we speak. I think it's clear to see there's an enormous amount of engagement across the integrated services to support a effective approach for child protection, and that's clear to see all across all the teams. We are working well together to make sure children are protected. They've began a complex case group which RHSCP staff and Centre Council staff are working together, and that's looking at children that are on the register and have been for coming up to that year, to see if we can work together more effectively to support them. And there's also been an update to the child protection guidance, which has been rolled out across all services. I think there's really good points to note around how we've been working together. And the other part I just want to pick up, reflecting that John has spoke about the complaints and everything. I don't want to say all that again, but the improvement work, and I think I've put in some of the improvement work examples at the end of the report, and I think it just shows the wide range of improvement work that is happening within the governance landscape. And that ranges from work to be done to improve our recording. It looks about training and concordance and compliance across the staff group, across many areas. It looks at there's improvement work around learning and sharing across teams. Mentioned the pressure also work, that improvement work that's happening, and also to note the CCAT audit tools that are across mental health services, district nursing, health visiting and school nurses, which really looks at all the quality indicators for care being delivered across those services and helps staff really focus and services really focus on what they need to do to make necessary improvement. And I think all of that that we're working on across all our governance group is really about that delivering an open culture and making sure if things go wrong that we have a learning environment, become a learning organisation to look at what happened, whether it's process, whether it's procedure, whether it's knowledge or skills, and work together to make a difference, make sure that our patients are safe and everybody is safe within our services. So I hope that helps, and I'm happy to answer any specific comments MD might have and anything that I've mentioned or other things on the report.
Thanks, Pauline. There's an awful lot of activity going on, isn't there? I certainly don't have any specific questions on the report. The only thing that occurred to me was you mentioned a couple of inspections coming up. Are those unannounced inspections? You just know that you're due them, or you are on a plan to be inspected?
Yeah, we're on a plan. I think the adult support and protection one was partially completed during COVID. So we always knew that the care inspectors would be back to complete that. So we fully expect that to be happening within the next 6 to 12 months' time. And there's a schedule for child protection. We were expecting that to happen at the beginning of this year, but it's not. So we're fully... we believe from our knowledge from what the care inspector are telling us.
So it is imminent. I think we're recalling something.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We just missed the last bit. You know it's coming.
We know it's coming, yeah. Care inspector have said that we're on the list. We just don't know when. I think we get about a month's warning, but it feels right to be on the front foot and to have prepared and make sure that all services are aware. So there's an inordinate amount of work going on about to prepare for these. So we're ready.
Yeah, it's always far more work than I think anyone not involved in it appreciates, I'm sure. So I don't see any questions on that. There's a lot of detail in there, which is really helpful for the committee. And thanks for your perseverance coming back in on that, Pauline. Thank you.
No worry.
So we're just noting that report this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
That then brings us on to item 14. Frances, I don't imagine you're taking us through this detail, but your name's against it.
Yeah, if okay, I'm not planning to take you through it. It's really just like similar relevant Audit Scotland reports where we bring these to the committee just to note and for visibility. So I hope that's okay, but not planning to go through the detail.
I'm sure most people will have seen it, either if they're on a mailing list. It was covered in certainly the news, picked up in the report as well. Interestingly, and it's become more and more so, a lot of the actions are actually Scottish Government actions rather than health board level actions, because I think that just reflects that it's the whole system that the actions are addressed against. So that was just something for me to kind of stuck out more than anything, but an interesting read. So thank you for that. And then Laura, on to item 15. We've got your updates for us this morning. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Margaret. Thanks, everyone. I believe this is the first time these reports have come to the Audit, Risk and Scrutiny Committee. So, like other colleagues, I don't intend to go through the full paper, but pick up on some key points and then, of course, take any questions that anyone has. So the report provides a summary of the recent Mental Welfare Commission visits to 2 of our Renfrewshire inpatient mental health wards, both of which are at general adult admission wards. The summary section of the paper in section 1 outlines the role and function of the Mental Welfare Commission and details the governance and assurance arrangements in place within Renfrewshire and within the wider GGC mental health system. Both inspection reports are appended in appendices 1 and 2 to the report, which you'll have in your papers. So just in terms of section 3.1 of the report, which summarises the announced visit to Ward 3B in Leverndale Hospital on the 28th of November 2023, it details that there are 2 recommendations which have been made. But I think also just to draw attention to the Commission highlighting a range of really good practice with some very excellent feedback from patients and carers. So it's always really good to see that, and particularly within the midst of some very complex and challenging circumstances. And I think we've referred previously to the acuity of some of the patients and service users that we're supporting currently, and the pressures within these services are very high. So this report was very much welcomed. In an unannounced visit to our South Ward, which is in Dykebar Hospital, took place on the 14th of December. So just referring back to Margaret, your question around unannounced and announced. You may be aware from the care inspector inspections that have been shared with this committee that they can be unannounced or announced. So similar with the Mental Welfare Commission, those can be unannounced or announced also. So the visit to the South Ward in Dykebar was an unannounced visit in December. So section 3.2 details the 4 recommendations that were made following that visit. And again, a range of very positive feedback and good practice was highlighted in relation to the practice and of our staff and the experiences both of our families and patients. So members are asked to note the report and just note that the action plans that are generated by the Mental Welfare Commission following these visits are taken forward. They're agreed with the Mental Welfare Commission between the wards or the service management and the Mental Welfare Commission, and then they're monitored through our local governance procedures and the wider mental health governance structures within GGC. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Laura. Jacqueline, you come in first.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Yeah, I just wanted to say well done, Laura. It's great to see some really positive feedback in these wards. And as you say, there's complex issues there. And I think it was particularly good to see the feedback from the patients, because I know from my old advocacy days that sometimes when people are detained, those relationships can be difficult. But to hear that really positive feedback, it seems that there's a positive culture, and particularly in the first report in the ward. So I was pleased to see that. So well done. Thanks.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Yeah, I think so. I can see other nods as well. I think for us, it does provide quite a lot of assurance, I guess, for you, Laura. It's always a lot of work for the team and the people on the ground. That it's hard when you get these unannounced visits in particular, and you're not quite sure where it's going to go. There inevitably are always recommendations. I don't think I've ever seen them where there are no recommendations, but actually you've got quite a nice balance there of things that you can action versus some positive feedback, which is, I think, a good outcome. Hopefully it feels like that as well.
Yeah, it certainly did on these 2 visits, because these are 2 very, very acute wards because of general admissions. So you can imagine the complexity and acuity of the need of people that are being supported in these wards. So definitely on the unannounced one, and just for members' information, there was an unannounced visit to one of our adult day services for learning disability yesterday. So that report will come to the committee at some point. Right,
okay, no, thank you for that update. I think maybe my question is, trying not to create, and I'm conscious that this agenda has been full this morning because actually this committee is doing more and more, and I don't want it to create an industry for itself for the sake of it, but I suppose to follow through to make sure that we've got the assurance that the actions are being followed up is maybe just something for us to think about. If we're getting these reports, what is the mechanism? I see it notes through the board-wide governance structures, but I think there's maybe just something to close off if we see the issue or the recommendation, whatever it is, that we understand the assurance process that's closing that off. So we don't necessarily need to answer that in this, but I think as part of our agenda setting, we just need to be clear on that process without duplicating other governance processes.
So I wondered about that myself, Margaret, just in terms of, so we can have a volume of these inspections across all of the areas. And I wondered what the view of the committee would be in terms of having a quarterly report that identifies the inspections that have taken place, the action plans that are in place, and perhaps a follow-up in terms of squaring that off in terms of completing actions of previous action plans. It might flow a bit better rather than bringing them up one by one.
I would support that, because then the quarterly report could say that actually there's been no activity in the period, but we've closed off these 2 items, and that would just give us that trail as well, rather than you having to respond each time there's an inspection. Fiona, I see you nodding. Is that acceptable to the committee?
Yeah, definitely for me. I think quarterly would be fine. I think it's a huge piece of work when these happen, announced, unannounced, and the number of them, and the responsibility that sits within the RHSCP for these types of services. So I do think quarterly would be good. What's happened and a wee bit of an update on what the actions were and how they've progressed would be fine.
And that acknowledges that the detail sits in other, perhaps clinical governance or other forums as well, depending on the nature of the outcomes of it. But it gives us as an IJB an understanding that they're being appropriately responded to and in a timely basis, which is probably the key thing for us in terms of that performance piece. So thank you, Laura. That's really helpful and a helpful recommendation for us to take that forward.
Thank you.
We're noting that update this morning, but that is really helpful. Thank you. So that concludes this morning's agenda, unless anyone else really thinks I've missed anything other than proposed dates for future meetings. Those are listed in the papers. Our next meeting is June. I can't find the dates. They're in the papers. I just can't see it at the moment. When is our next meeting? I can't even find it. Oh goodness.
21st of June.
Thank you. I don't know who said that, but thank you. 21st of June's the next meeting. I can't remember if this was formally discussed. I know we've been talking about IJB meetings in person and online. Certainly at the last seminar that we had, there was an informal discussion that proposed that we would stick with this committee being online on Teams. I was more than happy with that, given we have other opportunities to meet, but I just want to check that everyone is comfortable with that. Or more importantly, does anyone have a different view from that? No. So I think for me, this is a practical way, because sometimes the meetings are much shorter as well, so it avoids travel for a 45-minute meeting. So quite a sensible way, and we have other opportunities to meet in person. So we'll continue with Teams meetings for this committee, and then the discussion about the IJB as a whole will rest elsewhere. Mark, can you come?
Yeah, sorry, we need to formally agree the dates. So in terms of the report, it's suggested that further meetings be the 13th of September, 15th November, 14th March and 20th June. Are those acceptable to the board members?
I was just about to conclude on that, but I guess it's not in the paper that we're agreeing to do those via Teams, so I just wanted to check that first, and then we can approve those dates.
I think the proposal in the paper was that we'd continue on the basis of Teams, but obviously if there's a different view, we can agree that. So if anybody else wants to express that view, she said, Max, now's the time.
No, so we're approving those. Thank you. And that concludes this morning's meeting. Thank you all very much. We've covered quite a lot this morning. Thank you for everyone's contribution, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you
Thanks so much.
Thank
you.
Have a lovely weekend, folks.
too. Bye.
Bye.